Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Seaman, and I am the outgoing chair of SPJ's Ethics Committee.
Hi, and I'm Lynn Walsh. I'm the incoming chair of SPJ's Ethics Committee.
We're here today to talk to you a little bit in advance of your next section about ethically reporting on elections, just to talk about SPJ's Code of Ethics. The first thing we want to remind you about is that the Code of Ethics is not a set of rules. It's not a legally binding document. It can't be under the First Amendment. It's basically a guide to point you in the right direction. So if you're stumped, if you're looking for a little bit of guidance about which decision you should make or which choice you have, it's a great document to read over to say, I think this decision is in the spirit of this document, and move in that direction. So just remember, it's not legally binding, it's not a checklist, it's not any of that. It's just basically a holistic guide to point you in the right direction.
And here's an image of what it looks like if it were to be printed out in front of you, the SPJ's Code of Ethics on a sheet of paper. And as you can see, there are four main tenets, and Andrew and I are going to discuss those briefly with you here today. The first being seek truth and report it. The next, minimize harm. The third, act independently. And the fourth, be accountable and transparent. As we talk about each of these independently, remember, again, as Andrew said, this is something that is to be looked at holistically. And in some cases, there might be one portion of the code that is more important to pay attention to than maybe another, depending on the story that you're paying attention to. So this is something that should be looked at holistically and considered all together as you're making these decisions, not necessarily line by line. To begin, we will start with seek truth and report it. And this is something that is the very basic part of reporting and being a journalist. This is where you are gathering information, you're seeking out the truth, and then you are sharing it or reporting it with the public. When you're doing that, you want to make sure you're being accurate. You want to make sure that you have the correct information, that you're fact-checking. Those are all very basic things that journalists do. But some things to also keep in mind as you're reporting information is to remember that speed nor format excuses inaccuracy. So it's better to get the information correct than to be first and report the incorrect information. Also, no matter your format, whether you're reporting online or you're reporting on Twitter or Facebook, it doesn't matter. The information should still be accurate and should still be held to the same ethical standard. Something else to keep in mind when you are reporting information is to make sure that you are updating information in a story throughout the life of the story. So if you get new information that changes a headline, that changes what you knew before, be sure to update that as quickly as you can and as accurately as possible. Also, make sure that if you can, provide access to source material. So link to a lawsuit, link to other documents inside your reporting so that your users and viewers can read along with you and see the information firsthand.
And the next tenet of the Code of Ethics is minimize harm. And we put the second because it's really important that we understand the effect our reporting has on people and the people on the other side of our reporting. So basically what minimize harm is telling you to do is to give pause and think, does the harm that I'm creating through my reporting outweigh, or is that outweighed by the benefits of the story that's going to result from it? So yes, some people may sometimes lose their jobs, things like that when you uncover wrongdoing and things like that. But does the benefit of knowing that information sort of outweigh that harm? You're always going to create some level of harm when you do that, or do reporting, is just because, it makes people uncomfortable to get a phone call, to be asked questions. It doesn't mean cause no harm. It's just think twice sometimes about the way you pursue stories, how aggressively you go after them, depending on sort of what the outcome will be. Make sure you're recognizing that legal access to information differs from the ethical justification to publish. Just because it's there to publish doesn't mean you should. And then also make sure you consider the long-term implications of things that you publish. So if it's a minor offense sometimes, will that keep someone maybe from getting a job when they get out of law school about 10 years later?
And the third tenet is act independently. A couple things with this is you want to make sure that as the news organization and as you yourself, as you're sharing information on social media through your own accounts, that you're distinguishing between news and opinion and labeling your content. So if something is an opinion piece, make sure to label it both on social and in headlines in any way you can to make sure it's clear to your user the type of content they're getting. Also, if something is sponsored, right, or it's something that might be, a hybrid between the two. Make sure that you're being very honest about how this information, who produced the information, if it was paid for by a certain company. And the other thing come election season is it's really important to remember that, as journalists, it's important for us not to support political candidates. And that means whether you are attending a rally, an event, or giving or donating money to a campaign. These are all things that can give your reader or your user reason to doubt your reporting, even if you are telling the truth and doing a really great job of telling a story. So keep that in mind. Remember to act independently, both as a journalist and as a news organization.
And the last tenet is be accountable and transparent. And basically what that means is explain your decisions. If you grant anonymity to someone in a story, explain why. And also make sure you're correcting mistakes and you're doing that prominently. And the last thing is that you need to expose sort of unethical conduct, whether it's outside or inside journalism, including within your own organization. That could be tough sometimes and difficult. People don't like to do it, but it's important. So we just want to make sure that people are transparent about their reporting, their work, so that the public can sort of judge for themselves the value of it.
And as you can tell, the Code of Ethics does have a lot of information. It should be something that's looked at holistically, but it doesn't get into maybe specifics for each situation that you may run into or find yourself in. So we do have supporting documents. These are basically case studies for different situations that could come up. And you can find those on our website. The link is there, spj.org/ethics-papers.asp. You will be able to find different links to case studies and also more in-depth information for certain situations that may come up as you are reporting.